Something about Prince Harry doesn't add up anymore. The man once full of charm, confidence, and rebellion now looks hollow. His eyes tell a story no royal statement ever will, one of control, loss, and quiet surrender. The world thought Meghan Markle saved him, but insiders say she reshaped him, piece by piece, until the prince we knew simply disappeared. Behind every headline and smile lies a reality darker than any tabloid could print. What she did to him changed everything: his family, his freedom, even his voice. Stay tuned, because by the end of this video, you'll understand what truly happened to Prince Harry. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. This one's going to shake the palace. Prince Harry was once the most loved member of the royal family, bold, charming, and effortlessly real. His warmth made him stand out in a world of strict formality. But over time, that spark began to fade. His laughter felt restrained, his tone uncertain, and his eyes, once full of confidence, carried an exhaustion that couldn't be hidden by a smile. The change was slow but undeniable. Those who watched him closely noticed that his energy wasn't the same. Something had shifted, and no one could pinpoint when or how it started. This wasn't the natural result of stepping back from royal duties. It was deeper, more personal. The man who once represented independence now seemed carefully managed, almost coached. His interviews began to sound like rehearsed statements rather than heartfelt reflections. As Meghan's public presence grew brighter, Harry's own identity appeared to blur into the background. What had once looked like partnership began to resemble control, subtle, yet powerful. The transformation was gradual but complete. The world saw two people in love, yet behind the glitz and media appearances, it felt as though one voice was getting louder while the other was being slowly silenced. The transformation didn't explode overnight, it unfolded quietly. At first, Harry seemed simply protective of his new life, more private, more selective. But privacy soon turned into isolation. He began drifting away from those who had grounded him for years. Longtime friends, military companions, and even royal staff noticed his distance. What was described as a new chapter began looking like separation from everything familiar. His speech patterns and demeanor started to change. The men who once spoke freely about mental health, veterans, and family now paused before every answer, as though measuring each word. During joint appearances, he deferred to Meghan more often. Observers saw a pattern where she led discussions while he watched, nodding carefully. It wasn't dominance on the surface, it was influence disguised as coordination. Body language analysts pointed out the imbalance: her gestures commanded attention, his presence softened. To the public, they looked united. But to those paying attention, Harry seemed to be slowly losing his independence. As Meghan's voice grew more confident, Harry's quieted. And the quieter he became, the more the world wondered if the prince who once stood firmly on his own was still in control of his narrative, or if someone else had taken over. What appeared to be love soon became something far more complex. Meghan's message to Harry was often framed around protection, that the world outside was cruel, judgmental, and toxic. Slowly, those boundaries began to shut people out. Friends who questioned their relationship were labeled as negative influences. Invitations were turned down. Conversations that once kept him grounded became uncomfortable topics. The brotherhood that once defined his identity was gone. And in losing that connection, Harry didn't just walk away from the monarchy, he walked away from a part of himself. In public, their relationship was presented as modern, equal, and inspiring. But behind that image was a dynamic that looked increasingly one-sided. Meghan's confidence commanded the spotlight, while Harry's presence began to feel more like support than partnership. At interviews and public events, it became clear that she led the narrative. Their body language told its own story. She leaned forward, he leaned back. She spoke assertively, he followed with cautious agreement. To casual viewers, this seemed natural, but to experts, it revealed a growing imbalance. Control in relationships doesn't always appear through conflict. Sometimes, it hides beneath affection and unity. Harry, once a natural leader, had started adapting his behavior to fit her rhythm. The shift was subtle but profound, a private world where his individuality quietly dissolved under the weight of her direction. By the time Harry began speaking publicly again, something in his tone had changed. The sincerity was there, but the spontaneity was gone. Each word felt deliberate, almost prepared. His memoir, interviews, and media projects carried a single, consistent message: one that aligned perfectly with their shared brand. Observers noticed that his stories were filtered through a particular emotional lens. Pain, blame, and redemption were crafted with precision, as though his experiences had been edited to fit a larger narrative. The prince who once spoke from the heart now sounded like a man delivering lines written to serve an image. This wasn't manipulation in plain sight, it was influence through storytelling. His identity had become intertwined with a public persona built on sympathy and rebellion. The once unfiltered royal had become, in many ways, a character, that scripted prince in a drama he no longer fully controlled. What began as a love story soon turned into a brand, polished, profitable, and precisely managed. The couple's image became their currency. Every interview, podcast, and documentary was crafted to maintain a message of independence, yet behind the curtain, that same independence seemed to vanish. The more their brand grew, the less freedom Harry appeared to have. Their partnership with major media platforms brought wealth and global reach, but it also deepened the control. Every headline tied Harry's name to Meghan's vision. Even his personal causes, once authentic and heartfelt, began to sound like scripted extensions of their joint narrative. Fame became a form of confinement. The cameras that once adored him now captured a man living under the weight of constant image management. The prince who once fought for authenticity was now part of a system of storytelling that demanded perfection, a brand that offered power but took away peace. Behind the confident smile, Harry's exhaustion was becoming harder to hide. His interviews revealed subtle cracks, pauses, hesitation, eyes that seemed to search for words that would never come. The man who once thrived under pressure now appeared emotionally drained. Therapy sessions, media scrutiny, and constant public judgment took their toll. He tried to maintain composure, but his demeanor reflected a deep internal struggle. He often spoke about healing, yet his expressions told a different story, one of confusion, loss, and quiet pain. Observers saw him fighting two battles, one against the royal institution he left behind, and another within himself. His identity had been rebuilt for the cameras, but the real Harry seemed buried beneath layers of performance. The smile remained, but the light behind it flickered. What was once authenticity had become survival, the public face of a man trying to convince the world, and perhaps himself, that he was finally free. By now, the pattern was undeniable. What started as empowerment had become quiet submission. Harry's individuality, his instincts, his royal confidence, all softened, reshaped to fit the world around Meghan. Every act of independence somehow looped back to her narrative. Experts described it as emotional captivity, a cycle where love becomes obligation and freedom turns into guilt. Harry seemed constantly torn between defending her and defending himself. To question her choices meant disloyalty, to stay silent meant losing himself further. He once fought to escape royal control, yet found himself in a new kind of cage, one built not from rules and traditions, but from emotional dependency. His devotion, though genuine, had become his greatest restraint. The world admired his loyalty, but few realized how deeply it cost him. He wasn't just tamed, he was trapped, in a life that looked liberating from the outside, but felt suffocating within. Today, Prince Harry stands as a man divided, half free, half confined. The world sees him as a husband, father, and outspoken figure, yet beneath that image lies a quiet longing for balance he may never regain. The decisions he made out of love have reshaped every part of his identity. He's no longer the carefree royal who laughed through chaos, nor the soldier who led with strength. He's become a symbol of rebellion, but also a reminder of how influence can disguise itself as affection. His story is no longer just about leaving the monarchy, it's about losing himself in the process. And as cameras continue to follow him, one truth remains hauntingly clear: sometimes the greatest prison is built not by enemies or institutions, but by the people we trust the most.